They say wrestling is scripted, but some storylines went so far, even WWE's most loyal fans shouted one word: censor. From humiliations that destroyed real lives to angles that made sponsors furious, WWE has a dark history of pushing past the line of entertainment and straight into controversy. These aren't just storylines. They're moments that made fans walk out of arenas, made parents ban their kids from watching, and forced TV networks to rethink what they'd air. Today, we're diving deep into the 6 most shocking, disturbing, and downright unforgivable moments in WWE history. Moments that should never have aired. It's the storyline WWE desperately wants you to forget. And for good reason. In 2002, Triple H and Kane were locked in a heated feud for the World Heavyweight Championship. But instead of keeping things inside the ring, WWE writers decided to push things far beyond entertainment. Triple H, portraying his signature arrogant heel persona, accused Kane of a horrifying crime, causing the death of a woman named Katie Vick. But the storyline didn't stop there. On a now infamous episode of Raw, Triple H appeared on screen in a funeral home, dressed in a Kane mask, climbing into a coffin containing a mannequin meant to represent Vick, and proceeded to simulate a sexual act. Yes, WWE actually aired a necrophilia angle on national television. The backlash was immediate and nuclear. Sponsors pulled ads. Networks issued warnings. Fans flooded message boards and phone lines demanding apologies. Even longtime WWE loyalists called it the lowest moment in wrestling history. The story didn't even advance the feud. It was simply shock for the sake of shock. Triple H later admitted even he felt uncomfortable filming the segment. Kane's career temporarily suffered because the storyline overshadowed his character. And WWE, they never referenced Katie Vick again. It became a dirty secret, a cautionary tale about what happens when pushing boundaries becomes outright crossing the line. Even 2 decades later, the Katie Vick angle remains the gold standard for bad taste in wrestling. A reminder that no matter how scripted things are, some topics are simply too disgusting for TV. This wasn't entertainment. It was exploitation, and it left a stain on WWE's legacy that still hasn't fully washed away. On June 11, 2007, WWE ended Monday Night Raw with a shocking visual. Vince McMahon, the chairman himself, entering a limousine that exploded seconds later. The message was clear. McMahon was dead. WWE was ready to run a dramatic whodunit storyline that would dominate television for weeks. But just days later, real tragedy struck. Chris Benoit murdered his wife and son before taking his own life. WWE immediately canceled the storyline and aired a tribute show instead. And here's where things went from scripted chaos to disturbing reality. Because many fans felt WWE had blurred the lines too far. The fake death angle was already tasteless before the Benoit tragedy. Pretending your real-life boss had been assassinated, complete with somber reactions from commentators, was a desperate attempt to shock audiences. But in the context of Benoit's horrific crimes, it became downright appalling. WWE was suddenly facing questions about how far they were willing to go for ratings, and whether they had lost touch with reality. The fallout forced WWE to permanently abandon the storyline and issue public statements clarifying McMahon was alive. It also sparked internal discussions about tone, sensitivity, and the ethical responsibility of a company watched by millions of families every week. To this day, the limo explosion is remembered not for its creative potential, but for how quickly real life can render bad taste even worse. It's a haunting example of why playing with death, even in fiction, is a line WWE should never cross again. In 2005, WWE introduced Muhammad Hassan, a character meant to represent an Arab American angry at post-9/11 prejudice. The gimmick could have opened important conversations. Instead, WWE turned it into one of the most offensive storylines in wrestling history. On a July episode of SmackDown, Hassan ordered a group of masked men to attack The Undertaker. The scene, broadcast just days after the 7/7 London bombings, looked horrifyingly similar to a terrorist assault. The men wore black hoods, used piano wire, and even prayed on the ramp before dragging Undertaker away. The backlash was swift and severe. TV networks cut the segment from replays. News outlets condemned WWE for insensitivity. And UPN, the network airing SmackDown, reportedly demanded Hassan be removed from television. WWE complied, writing him off the show and effectively ending the career of a promising performer, all because they couldn't resist chasing controversy. The Muhammad Hassan incident is a textbook example of tone-deaf storytelling. Instead of creating a complex heel, WWE exploited real-world trauma for cheap heat. They turned a potentially groundbreaking character into a walking stereotype, and paid the price in reputation and lost opportunities. It's one of the most glaring examples of WWE crossing the line, proving that even in a world built on fiction, real-life tragedies must be treated with respect. In the early 2000s, WWE's Attitude Era pushed boundaries like never before. But one storyline in particular crossed from edgy to exploitative: Vince McMahon's humiliating treatment of Trish Stratus. Stratus, one of the most popular women in the company, was scripted to crawl on her hands and knees, bark like a dog, and strip down to her underwear in the middle of the ring, all to appease Vince on live television. Fans were stunned. Even by Attitude Era standards, this was disturbing. WWE tried to defend it as part of a larger comeuppance storyline, but the damage was done. The segment reinforced harmful stereotypes about women and turned a talented wrestler into a degrading punchline. Worse, it sent a toxic message to millions of viewers about power dynamics and humiliation, one that felt especially uncomfortable in hindsight as society's conversations about workplace abuse evolved. Trish herself has since spoken about how difficult the segment was for her. And while she ultimately went on to become a Hall of Famer and a respected figure in wrestling, that one storyline remains a dark stain on WWE's history. The segment may have been scripted, but the embarrassment was real. And it's one of the clearest examples of how WWE's pursuit of shock value often came at the expense of basic human dignity. Few storylines upset fans quite like when WWE exploited the real-life death of Eddie Guerrero. Guerrero, one of the most beloved wrestlers of all time, passed away suddenly in 2005. Instead of honoring his legacy with respect, WWE made it a plot device. During a feud with Rey Mysterio, Randy Orton cut promos saying Eddie was in hell. The crowd audibly booed. Not the normal wrestling kind, but a real, disgusted reaction. Fans couldn't believe WWE was using a deceased wrestler's name to build heat for a storyline. It wasn't the first or last time WWE would exploit tragedy, but it was among the most painful. Guerrero was universally loved, and his death had devastated fans. Using that pain for cheap heel heat was widely seen as a disgusting move. Even many wrestlers backstage were reportedly furious. Chavo Guerrero, Eddie's nephew, later revealed that the family was deeply uncomfortable with the angle. And while Orton was just following orders, the storyline became a permanent black mark on WWE's creative decisions. It's proof that some subjects, especially real death and grief, should remain off limits. Exploiting genuine human tragedy for scripted entertainment isn't edgy. It's heartless. Our final example isn't about violence or death, but it might be the most disturbing of all, because it was so real. In 2009, WWE ran a storyline where Layla and Michelle McCool repeatedly bullied Mickie James about her weight, calling her Piggy James on live TV. They mocked her with pig noises, humiliated her with fake food segments, and even had her cry on camera. Fans thought it was cruel, but here's the worst part. Mickie has since revealed that much of the bullying mirrored real comments backstage. What was scripted abuse on TV was often happening in real life. The storyline received widespread backlash from fans and media alike, many accusing WWE of promoting body shaming to a young, impressionable audience. Sponsors weren't happy either, and even other wrestlers criticized the company publicly. For Mickie James, the experience was deeply painful. While she continued to succeed in wrestling, the Piggy James storyline remains a reminder of WWE's worst instincts, the tendency to mistake humiliation for storytelling. It's a final, powerful lesson. Wrestling can be wild, dramatic, and over the top. But when the entertainment crosses into cruelty, exploitation, or disrespect for human dignity, it's no longer just bad booking. It's a betrayal of the audience's trust. WWE has given us unforgettable moments, from WrestleMania classics to emotional retirements. But these examples prove that the company has also pushed too far, too often. Whether it's necrophilia jokes, fake terrorist attacks, or real-life tragedies used as storylines, there's a pattern, chasing headlines without considering the cost. Fans will always forgive bad matches. What they won't forgive is being made to feel uncomfortable, disgusted, or betrayed by the very product they love. Wrestling is supposed to blur reality and fiction, but these moments didn't blur the line. They obliterated it. So next time WWE promises to shock the world, let's hope it's with unforgettable storytelling, not another moment that should have been censored.